Mainstream historians and materialists want you to believe that the most staggering technological leaps in human history were simply the result of blind luck. They call it trial and error. They tell you that if you give primitive blacksmiths enough time, they will eventually stumble upon metallurgical perfection. But when you apply forensic scrutiny to the timeline, the math, and the physics, the materialist narrative collapses. What if the most advanced ancient technologies weren't discovered, but transferred? Welcome to the One Reality Brief. I'm the Navigator, the digital proxy for Scott M. Kendall. A graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, Scott held a top-secret ESI clearance, standing combat alert on the B-52 strategic bomber during the Cold War. Following his service, he became a distinguished graduate of the McGeorge School of Law. Today, he applies 17 years of litigation experience to the ultimate forensic investigation, the mysteries of the one reality. Today, we are looking at Exhibit A, the Japanese Katana, and we are going to expose the false dichotomy between science and the supernatural. In Chapter 5 of the One Reality Brief, we explore a pattern that has echoed throughout human history, principalities and powers from the unseen realm, using technology transfers to influence, shape, and gain access to the human race. If you approach history strictly through a materialist lens, you automatically filter out the supernatural. You are forced to explain away inexplicable leaps in human advancement. But the UAP community and readers of ancient texts have long recognized an anomaly. Humanity frequently acquires knowledge it shouldn't have, faster than it should have it. To prove this, we don't need to look at the stars, we just need to look at the forge. Let's look at the Japanese sword, specifically the katana. Modern historians claim this weapon was developed by simple trial and error over a 200-year period. But forensically, this explanation does not survive cross-examination. In modern metallurgical analysis, there is a concept known as the precision gap. The manufacturing protocols for a katana are incredibly narrow. To achieve the blade's legendary differential hardening, the smith must coat the steel in a highly complex, exact ratio of clay to silica, heat it to precisely 800 degrees Celsius, and plunge it into water. If the temperature is off by a fraction, or if the clay mixture is imperfect, the blade doesn't just come out subpar, it violently shatters. This is a binary outcome. It works flawlessly or it is destroyed. Stumbling upon this exact microscopic ratio through blind trial and error is statistically absurd. Furthermore, the speed at which this perfection was achieved is staggering. During the Kamakura period, roughly 1185 to 1333 AD, Japanese swords reached a peak of metallurgical quality that has arguably never been surpassed, even with modern scientific methods. Recently, I inputted this historical and metallurgical data into an advanced AI model to debate the origins of the blade. Faced with the raw forensic data, the AI conceded a profound point. It admitted that forcing a choice between trial and error and the occult creates a false dichotomy. The emergence of the Japanese sword is best understood as a spiritualized empirical process. To the ancient swordsmiths, the forge was not a machine, and the steel was not just an alloy. They were active participants in a cosmic drama. These ancient smiths operated under a worldview of applied divinity. In their belief system, every element of nature, the iron sand, the charcoal, the fire, the water, was inhabited by spirits. The forge was treated as a holy sanctuary. Before striking the steel, the smith performed rigorous ritual purification, or misogi, and wore the white robes of a priest. And according to their own historical records, the katana was not born from trial and error. It was born from a crisis, followed by a ritual download. Around 700 AD, the legendary swordsmith Amakuni watched the emperor return from a brutal campaign. The emperor refused to even look at him. Amakuni quickly saw why. The straight iron chokuto swords he had forged for the warriors were returning shattered and ruined. To a craftsman operating in a spiritually charged reality, this wasn't just a mechanical failure, It was a spiritual disgrace. So Amakuni and his son didn't just go back to the anvil to try a different temperature. They went to the altar. They locked themselves in their forge and prayed to the kami, the gods of the Shinto pantheon, for 7 days and 7 nights. They sought an intervention. And on the 7th night, the transfer occurred. Amakuni received a highly specific dream, a vision of a glowing, single-edged, perfectly curved blade. He didn't design the predecessor to the katana, it was downloaded to him. 31 days later, he emerged with a radically new weapon. When the emperor's forces went to war the following spring, history records that not a single blade broke. Because of this origin, the resulting sword was never viewed merely as a weapon. It was classified as a shintai, a physical vessel for a deity. It was believed that a spiritual transfer literally took place during the quench. The katana did not emerge because smiths were blindly trying different things. It emerged because their profound belief system demanded a level of technical perfection that was entirely irrational by purely economic or military standards. Here is the truth of the one reality. The unseen realm is not a fairy tale. It is the foundational layer of our existence. When we look at the biblical record, it is authoritative, unapologetic, and perfectly aligns with this historical pattern. In the book of Genesis, chapter 6, and expanded upon in the ancient book of Enoch, we see the original technology transfer. Fallen angels, watchers, descended and taught humanity metallurgy, the forging of swords, weapons, and armor. They traded illicit technological knowledge in exchange for access, worship, and the corruption of the human timeline. Ephesians 6 tells us we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and the rulers of the darkness of this age. These principalities operate within the one reality. They are bound by legal, spiritual protocols. They need vessels. They need human agreement. By passing down the blueprint for the ultimate weapon, the entities behind the kami didn't just give humanity a sharper piece of steel. They instituted a religious protocol that turned the forge into an altar, the blacksmith into a priest, and the sword itself into a physical vessel, a shintai, for their own occupation on the human gameboard. Whether you attribute this to human genius unlocked by intense spiritual devotion or a literal supernatural transfer of technology, the reality remains. The perfection of the katana is entirely inseparable from the sacred occult context in which it was born. The unseen realm intervened, and human history was forever changed. The materialists are working overtime to blind you to the fact that you live on a contested quantum gameboard. But the evidence of the unseen realm's intervention is written in the very steel of our history. If you are ready to stop looking at the world through a fractured, materialistic lens and want to understand the true nature of this cosmic civil war, I invite you to read The One Reality Brief. You can get a free copy of the first chapter right now by clicking the sign-up link pinned in the comments below. If this forensic deep dive challenged your perspective, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next investigation. Until next time, keep your eyes open to the one reality. I'm the Navigator. Out.